Today, we're going to review area of a right triangle. Okay. Now, the formula for area of a right triangle is half base times height, or base times height divided by 2. Okay. So I'm going to identify the sides of a right triangle. Now, one of the things about it, sometimes they'll give you the right triangle upside down, and it would look like this. All right, however, it's still a right triangle. So let me identify the right angle. This little square represents the right angle, which is 90 degrees. So the base of the right triangle is what the triangle sits on. That's the base. That's like the shortest side. Then here's the height, which is leads you to the right angle, okay? And here is the longest side, which is the hypotenuse. All right, hypotenuse. The longest side of a right triangle. Here it's the same thing, but because it's upside down, sometimes it can be difficult to identify the base. But in this case, here's the base. And remember, just like I said on the other one, the height leads you to the right angle. Okay? So, and then again, this is the hypotenuse. I'm going to spell it out for you. All right, hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is the longest side, like I said, of a right triangle. It's opposite of the right angle. Okay, so now we recognize that where the height is and where the base is. The only time you use the hypotenuse is when you're doing perimeter. If we're not doing perimeter, you do not need the hypotenuse for the area of a right triangle. So let's do some examples. I'm just going to draw it out this time instead of using the lines. All right, so here's our right angle, as we said. Now let's label the sides. Let's say that this side is 8 centimeters. This side is 10 centimeters. And this is 12. Now, they're always going to throw the hypotenuse in there, even when you're doing area, because they want to confuse you. And they don't think that you know that for area you're not using a hypotenuse. So the formula that I have suggested that you stick with is base time height divided by 2. However, you can do half a base time height. The only concern I had is that if the numbers are odd, if you take half of it, it's going to become a decimal. And then you have to multiply decimals and move decimal places. So I recommend that you multiply the numbers together and then divide them. So, excuse me. So the base in this case is 10. The height is 8. All right. And then I'm going to divide it by 2. All right. So we're going to do what's on the top. 10 times 8 is 80. And then if I divide it by 2, and I divide 2 into 80, 2 goes in 8. 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract, you get 0. You bring down your 0. 2 goes into 0, of course, 0 times. And that's 0. So your answer is going to be 40. But I'm missing something. You always have to have your unit, 40 centimeters. Now, because it's area, your answer always have to be expressed in square units. So it would be 40 centimeters squared. Okay? And the reason for that is, if you think about it, let's show you something. A right triangle is really half of a rectangle. We know rectangle or squares is base times height or length times width. So then if you take half of that, you end up with a right triangle. The square units are all the units, all the squares that are inside the shape. Now that it's not correctly, accurate with the little squares, but you get the point. So your answer has to be in square units. All right. So if you're missing square unit, it's incorrect. You can either write it as 40 centimeters square or 40 square centimeters. Either way, you have to have the square in there, the square unit. Okay. So remember, area of right triangle is base times height divided by 2. Now, if I wanted to do it without the base times height and do half base times height, let's look at that on this particular problem. It would work because they're even numbers. So I could take half of either. So I could take half of 10, which is going to give me, let's write that down, half 10 times 8. So half of 10, of course, is 5. So that's the same as 10 divided by 2. And 5 times 8 is 40. So you end up with the same answer. Either way you want to do it is fine. I think that this way is easier when you have odd numbers. Okay? So that concludes our mini lesson on area of a right triangle. If you should have any questions, see me in class, and I will be glad to explain it further. Thank you.